Welcome to the Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association's Patients Come First podcast series. Podcast episodes are available on VHHA.com and on popular podcast hosting apps, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, and many others. We're a member of the Public Health Podcast Network, the Virginia Audio Collective, and the World Podcast Network. Podcast episodes also air Sundays at noon on 100.5 FM, 92.7 FM, and 820 AM across Central Virginia, 1650 AM in Hampton Roads, 105.1 FM and 1050 AM in Lynchburg, and Wednesdays at 1 p.m. on 93.9 FM in Richmond. Please send questions, comments, feedback, or guest suggestions to pcfpodcast@vhha.com. Again, that is pcfpodcast@vhha.com. And today, our guest is Andy Spicknall, the inaugural president of Bon Secours Harborview Hospital, a facility in Suffolk that's slated to open in 2025. He joins us for a conversation about his professional journey, the work of establishing a new hospital to serve community health needs, and more. So with that, welcome to the show, Andy. Thanks for joining us.
Julian, thanks so much for having me.
Well, we appreciate you making some time for us, and so we're just going to dive right in here. It's a tradition on the podcast to begin these conversations by getting to know our guests a bit better. What we know about you, Andy, is that you earned an undergraduate degree from Virginia Tech and a master's degree in health administration from VCU. You've been with Bon Secours for about a decade, starting as an administrative resident and working your way up through the ranks from there. And just recently, you were named by Hampton Roads Inside Business as a member of the 40 Under 40 class for 2024, so congratulations on that. Beyond those few details, Andy, what else should people know about your unique personal story?
Julian, as you said, I went to Virginia Tech and earned my bachelor's in finance, and for a long time thought I wanted to work in the financial industry. And it was going into my senior year that I really learned more about the healthcare industry, and I didn't know anything about the industry of healthcare administration. And so through some opportunities that I had with internships, really got to learn more about this field. A lot of my family has been in healthcare. My dad was an employee benefits broker. My mom worked in pharmaceuticals. I've got an uncle that's a pharmacist, an uncle that's a primary care physician, an aunt that's a healthcare attorney. So growing up, healthcare was the dinner table conversation. But it really wasn't until going into my senior year of college that I thought seriously about pursuing this as a profession. And I fell in love with it. I attended Virginia Commonwealth University and earned my master's in health administration, which was a great program and opportunity for me that led me to Bon Secours. And I started over 10 years ago here at Bon Secours Hampton Roads. And through that experience with Bon Secours, I've had a number of opportunities, learned from a number of great leaders and mentors over the years. And through that, I got a chance to move into hospital operations and really learn from a number of leaders on what it takes to successfully run a hospital, and ultimately had the opportunity to be named, and fortunate to be named as the inaugural president of Harborview Medical Center back in June of 23.
And then you just mentioned that you began your career at Bon Secours as an administrative resident, which essentially is a professional training ground for people pursuing careers in healthcare leadership. You talked about the healthcare background in your family. On this podcast, we often talk about healthcare workforce challenges, and through our Onboard Virginia campaign, we work to attract healthcare professionals to establish careers in the Commonwealth. Those conversations often center on clinical roles, but administrative and other support roles are also essential to hospital operations. If you would, Andy, tell us about how one trains to become a hospital administrator. And I know also, as an aside, I'll mention, I think that you've also served as a preceptor to help other administrative fellows or potential future hospital administrators following in your footsteps. Tell us a little bit about that.
It really goes back to some of the faculty that I had at Virginia Commonwealth University that understood the importance of getting students to spend time with the caregivers who were at the bedside. And so through my graduate school studies, had the opportunity to shadow with clinicians within healthcare settings to understand the challenges that they faced every day. And one of the components of the VCU program is that administrative residency. It's a graduation requirement for a 12-month-long practicum. And we were embedded in a healthcare organization. And at the time, my preceptor, I'm very fortunate, that they gave me, the advice that they did was to spend the first several months of my residency shadowing with the leaders within our organization. And so I spent several days within every department, not just with the leaders of those departments, but with the frontline teams. And that was everything from the emergency department to the facility engineering team. And that was really important for me to understand at the start of my residency how a hospital worked. Because if you can't understand how a hospital works, you can't lead the teams that are in the hospital. And so that has been something that with residents that I've had the opportunity to mentor has been a focus of ensuring that not only do they get to spend time with me and with the other senior leaders of an organization, but with the frontline teams and beyond the four walls of the hospital. We know that healthcare is rapidly evolving and changing. And so getting those residents out within our ambulatory care settings, within our medical group, has been another important component of their development.
And I have to imagine that experience that you just talked about has really come in handy, having seen so many different aspects of hospital operation, from the clinical side to the administrative side to other departments. Have to think that has come in handy in your role as inaugural president of Bon Secours Harborview Medical Center. A groundbreaking ceremony on the site was held in October of 2022, and the hospital is expected to be operational in spring of 2025. I know there are so many moving parts to the process. If you would, can you just provide a status update on where things stand and perhaps a high-level overview of everything that's happening ahead of the opening?
I'd be happy to. So we are on schedule for our hospital to open in May of 2025. Construction will be complete at the end of March, and so our teams are working through their action plans across our organization to ensure that we are ready to welcome those first patients in May of 2025. We are in the hiring phase, so we have onboarded our senior leadership team for the facility and are hiring our frontline associates and ensuring that they have the opportunities to orient in our existing facilities so that they'll be ready to care for our first patients. In addition to the construction work for the facility, we're working through all of the equipment planning, not just the medical equipment that our care teams will need to care for patients, but all of the IT equipment and all of the other various equipment that our teams will need when the facility opens. We're in the process of forming our medical staff. We have a provisional medical executive committee that those are the physicians that will provide the oversight and the governance and advice to the facility from a clinical perspective, and are in the process of recruiting community physicians to practice here at Harborview. So there is a lot of activity that is happening here. We are excited about the days and the weeks and months ahead and look forward to welcoming our first patient in the spring of next year.
Sounds good, and good to hear that everything is on schedule. Bon Secours Harborview Medical Center is reportedly an $80 million, 100,000 square foot facility that will initially open with 18 inpatient beds and capacity for up to 54 beds, as well as observational space. Because this is a new facility, it presents the opportunity to incorporate new technology to support patient care. From what I've read, the hospital will integrate a freestanding emergency department, imaging center, and lab as part of the expanded medical center campus. Beyond those services, what other new features or treatment technologies are being built into the hospital to support patient care?
Julian, as you mentioned, Bon Secours has been on this campus since 1999. And really the story of Harborview has been an evolution that has undergone 6 expansions on this campus already over the last 25 years. And so the addition of acute care services on this campus really rounds out an existing robust ambulatory campus. As you mentioned, the role of technology in this facility has been a focus for us. We know that the technology that is used in healthcare today looks different even than it did 4 or 5 years ago. And we know that the pace of change is going to continue to evolve as technology becomes more integrated within all of our daily lives. And so we are focusing on ensuring that our technology is there within our patients' rooms to provide them the information they need about their care, about their discharge goals, as well as providing them with the amenities that they're used to at home.
And the new hospital is going to be located in Suffolk, which is a city in Hampton Roads, and it's a growth area that's seen overall population gains, especially in the 65 and older age group, which I've seen you being quoted as saying will increase 15% in the next 5 years. We know that as the baby boomer generation continues to age into retirement, expected healthcare service demand and utilization is projected to rise. And again, this is one of the reasons that we talk so much about healthcare staffing, because there are existing shortages, and with this growth in utilization projected, there are going to need to be more trained clinicians and other administrative and support personnel to serve that increase in patient demand. So how have those trends factored into the planning and development work for the new hospital, Andy?
It's something that we're constantly looking at. So as you mentioned, the 65 and over population within our primary service area is projecting to grow over 15% over the next 5 years. And so as we look at the services that we are planning to offer at Harborview, as well as what our longer term plan is, we're continuing to assess what the needs of our community is. Because at the end of the day, that is why we are here. That is the purpose of this facility opening, is to meet the need of our community, to meet their healthcare needs, and to get them back home and living the lives of health and wellness that they're seeking.
Understood. Well, I want to thank you again, Andy, for taking some time to be with us today. We are approaching the conclusion of this conversation, but before we get there, we're going to close with our tradition on the podcast, which is to ask our guests a pair of mystery questions. To keep things interesting, we have 10 surprise questions that you can choose from. So if you would, please select 2 numbers from 1 to 10, and then I'll ask you those corresponding questions.
Let's go with number 5 and number 10.
Okay. Number 5, if you could spend the day with one person from history, living or otherwise, who would it be and why?
You know, I would have to say I'd like to spend a day with my grandmother, who I lost when I was in middle school. And so much has changed in my life since that time, getting the chance to spend a day with her. And she was always filled with so much love and so much wisdom. Getting the chance to spend a day with her would be very meaningful.
And what was her name?
Her name was Dottie Fuller, but she was Meemaw.
Okay, got it. Sounds like a good pick. And then you also selected number 10. Number 10 is, what is your happy place and why?
You know, I've lived down here in Hampton Roads for the last 10 years, and my happy place is on one of our beaches. This is just a great community to live in. Spending an afternoon on the beach with a good book is a great way to refresh and recharge, getting some time to spend time outside in nature.
Listen, any day at the beach is a good day. I can certainly appreciate and relate to that. Well, Andy, again, we want to thank you for being with us. And with that brings our conversation to a close. And that means this is the end of another episode of the Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association's Patients Come First podcast. If you like what you heard, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe so that you know when new episodes are available. And we want to once again thank our guest, Andy Spicknall of Bon Secours Harborview Medical Center, for joining us today. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Julian.